Today we're gonna make a new family favorite, French onion meatballs. I did not invent this recipe, it's all over TikTok. Here's the ingredients, let's get into it right now. TikTok has been French onioning everything. I figured, you know what, let's do the French onion meatballs, which I actually think is a really good combination. If you watch my French onion soup, you'll notice that there's a little bit different ingredients in here in the actual like French onion soup part. And the reason I'm doing that is because we're making meatballs, okay? So I'm gonna go over first what is in that soup. So we have 2 large onions right here that all I did was slice these root to stem. Probably I have here about 1.5 pounds. If you like more onions, feel free to use more onion. At the end, we're gonna finish with Swiss cheese. Jarlsberg, it's like a mild Swiss. It's often called like baby Swiss. 2 cups of, this is homemade chicken stock, but feel free to use better than bouillon chicken base. I have a 1/2 cup of red wine, okay? And the other one, we used white wine or vermouth. I do still have a little bit of brandy here. So this is 1 tablespoon worth. That's completely optional. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. And even if you want to take out the wine too, you could do that as well. You can make this a completely 0 alcohol French onion meatball recipe. Garlic, about 4 cloves in there, and then 2 tablespoons of butter. We got flour also, 1.5 tablespoons. This is gonna like kind of make our base. We'll also put some thyme in here. Right here is what we're gonna use for the meatballs. Okay, so this thyme is gonna do double duty. It's gonna be in our meatballs and also in that French onion soup mix. Recipe calls for 1.5 pounds of ground beef. I have a little odd amount here. It's 21.4 ounces, so it's like 1 1/3 pound from Costco. So that's gonna go in the meatballs. We're also gonna put in 5 cloves of minced garlic, 2 eggs. I have a 1/2 cup of Italian seasoned breadcrumbs, and I have a 1/4 cup of milk. This is a very basic meatball recipe. We'll also put in about 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of black pepper. The last thing, and this is completely optional, but it's really nice to serve it this way, take some pieces of baguette and you can just toast them with a little bit more of the Swiss cheese. Again, use Gruyere, you could use mozzarella in here, you could use a soft provolone. It's really flexible. This whole recipe is flexible. Just want to show you how to go about doing it. All right, let's make the meatballs right now. Okay, we're gonna make very simple meatballs. I have a large glass bowl here. Just put in a 1/2 cup of Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. You could use plain breadcrumbs, you could use panko, you can use bread, whatever. I'm gonna put in 1/4 cup of milk. I'm gonna just mix this up, get them a little wet. If I don't have enough here, I can put a little bit more water in. I just kind of want to rehydrate these breadcrumbs a little bit. These packages are never as good as getting meat freshly ground from your supermarket or butcher. I'm just spreading this out as best I can initially. So we're gonna put in 1 teaspoon of salt, regular salt. We're using Diamond Kosher. You need 2 times the amount. So if a recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of salt, okay, and you're using this type of salt, you'll do 2. That's it, it's as simple as that. Okay, so that's like 1. And then we'll save the other one after I flip it over. And then about a 1/2 to maybe a little bit more pepper. And I got my pepper right here in the box here, which makes it easy. It's not as good as the fresh ground, but it's better to distribute this easily for a meatball. Okay, just gonna push that in there. I'm gonna kind of just flip my meat over like this, and then do another teaspoon of that salt, and another good amount of that pepper. 5 cloves of garlic. You know, I minced this, but you can turn it into a paste. Like if you have a garlic press or something, more evenly distribute it. Thyme, I'm gonna use 1/2 of this here. I'm gonna use about 2 teaspoons of this fresh thyme in this. You know, look, if you don't like thyme, don't use it. And then we'll put 2 eggs in. Now, we spoke about it last time about the bro gloves, and I honestly wish I had the bro gloves. These are very wet here. What do you think, Tara? You think we need a little bit more breadcrumb in there, right?
I think so.
I'm thinking 3/4.
Oh, it's very wet.
This is a lot better now, a lot easier to work with. So let's roll some meatballs. I have water here. You get your hands a little wet and just take some meat. We want these to be about 1.5 inches, like this much, okay? And then I'm just gonna go like this. I'm just gonna roll until they're relatively smooth and not too many cracks, so they ideally don't fall apart really when we're frying them. And then I have a parchment paper lined baking sheet that I'm gonna put them all on. So the recipe, the way I wrote it, it was you were gonna start the onions first, and that's really what you should do, but just because I'm here in front of you, we're gonna just do these, put them off to the side, then we'll start our onions. Again, recipe calls for 1.5 pounds. I had 1 1/3 pounds. It's gonna make roughly 15 to 18 1.5 inch meatballs. Okay, I'm gonna put them in the fridge right now for a little bit to set up while we just start our onions, or you could just leave them off to the side. Not a big deal. Okay, caramelized onions. We did this really in depth on the French onion soup, so we don't need to go super in depth here, but I'm gonna tell you everything still though. I'm not assuming anything. Turn this to right about medium, maybe even like a touch lower. The whole thing with caramelized onions, if you burn them, then you're gonna ruin them and then you have to throw them out. All right, so these are our onions. Okay, I'm gonna put in just a couple tablespoons of olive oil to get these started. I'm gonna put in a couple ounces of water, maybe a little bit more than that. None of this really matters here. You can drain this. All we're trying to do is get the onions to cook quicker in the beginning. About half a teaspoon, good pinch of salt. It's gonna bring the water out of them too. I just wanna coat them with the oil and the water here. That's all I wanna do. Water is going to prevent them from burning, and it's going to allow these to get a good head start on them. I'm going to put the lid on, and then about 15 minutes from now, they'll be on their way to the caramelizing, but they take a lot longer than 15 minutes. So for this, at this point, you could just move this off to the side and then start frying your meatballs. I'm going to heat this up to about medium heat. We're going to shallow fry these meatballs. If you don't want to fry these, you can also do them in the oven. We don't want to cook them all the way right now because they're going to be finished with the French onion soup and the cheese at the end. You don't have to use a cast iron either. Just make sure you're using a pan that is oven safe, because this is the pan that we're actually going to put in the oven. So the onions are just over there. They're doing fine, not burning at all. And we're just going to fry them up. You could test your oil. You could throw a little bit of breadcrumb in there. If it sizzles, then it's good. So I just opened up the onions over here, and I'm just checking them. They're completely no color. They're just steaming, which is gonna accelerate our process when we finally start caramelizing them. We don't have to cook these all the way through. We could just do them a couple minutes per side until they get nice and brown. Say like that. If they don't come up right away, let them cook for another minute. The ones that did come up like this are nice and brown. Okay, so it's been maybe like 8 minutes, 10 minutes total. I got them as brown as I could on all the sides, not perfect. Just use a slotted spoon or something just to drain. There's a lot of fat here. So between the meat, between everything else that we're doing, it's a rich dish, like with the cheese. So the onions they got a little color over there. I put a little bit more water on them. It's been about, I don't know, 15 maybe total on those onions. What I want to do here is I want to get all this fat out of here. There's way too much. That's beef fat and olive oil. We don't want that much in our dish. Okay, so I poured this out. This is how much I have here, so it's a lot. I have paper towels here, so you can just take this and just get a lot more of the fat out. Here is our onions. Let's just put them in there. Moderate your heat. Do whatever it takes to not burn these. I'm on like a 3 of 10 right now, and it's still making that large heat sound. So put a touch of water in there just to slow it down. So we're gonna caramelize these. They're gonna take about another 60 minutes if you really want to do them perfect, or 30 minutes. You could probably get pretty good color on them. Right now, that's not caramelized onions. Those are just lightly golden. What you can do now is add the butter. This is 2 tablespoons of butter. Okay, so it's been another 10 minutes, and this is how they look. They're not there yet, okay? You remember where I was when I put all those onions in here, it was like filled, and now look what it is. Now this is when it gets a little bit, I guess, trickier, where you really gotta be here. It'll just be a couple seconds when it starts to burn. This is like kind of the point now where they're really gonna start to caramelize. That's why you need a lot of onions. It turns into barely anything in the end, all right? I think we're about 15 minutes away from these being good. How long do you think I was caramelizing these for, Tara? Probably about an hour, right?
That's what I would say,
So, yeah, I mean, honestly, and you'll see it in the recipe card, I also noted in the French onion soup, you should be doing it longer than this. That's what I got after that amount of time. You can't do this super fast. It's just how it works. So I'm gonna put flour in there. There's 1.5 tablespoons. Oh, I forgot, I messed up. I was supposed to put garlic in. So you know what? We're gonna call an audible and put them both in at the same time. I'll try to keep my garlic on the side there so it gets a little bit of color, a little bit of fragrantness before, but it's gonna be all right. I gotta mix this all in here, get it all together before anything starts burning, and that's what happens. As your onions get smaller and smaller, there's less and less liquid in there, and it will start to wanna burn. All right, so now this is 1/2 cup of red wine, dry red wine. Evaporates, it absorbs into the onions in a matter of seconds. It's all gone. This is 2 cups of homemade chicken stock, but you know, feel free to use better than bouillon. Hey, let's turn our heat up to boiling level. So you're whisking this here so you don't have any lumps in it. Not a big deal if you do have it, you can get them out. Really not a big deal. This 1.5 tablespoons of flour is gonna probably thicken this enough. This is my first go at doing this recipe, all right? It's got a wonderful smell to it. All right, let's bring this up to a boil. Okay, we'll let it boil for like 2 minutes. I'm whisking it in, just getting any brown bits off the bottom. So I used 1.5 tablespoons of flour. If you want it thicker, you maybe want to go with 2 tablespoons. It really depends what you're looking for here. If you want like something super thick or if you want like a little bit of soupiness. So we're gonna turn this down to a simmer for 5 minutes. Okay, simmer means tiny bubbles. I'm gonna put in most of that remaining thyme. The stock I use is no salt. Obviously, if you use better than bouillon, you probably don't need any salt. You gotta be careful with that stuff, you know? Now listen, I tasted it. The wininess of it is pretty low. You could put in a tablespoon or 2 of brandy. I'm gonna do that, okay? It's actually cognac that I have there. Gotta put some pepper in here too. Let's get the meatballs in and the cheese, and turn your oven on to 450 degrees and set the rack at the middle level. Look, if for some reason you want a little bit more broth, you can add a little bit more stock in there. You're not having French onion soup with meatballs. It's kind of like a combination of the two. So here are our meatballs that are nice and brown, but the inside of them is still not cooked all the way through. So nothing that a few minutes in a 450 degree oven won't fix. You can top a little bit of the onions on each meatball, or you can lay them bare, it doesn't matter. And then I have 2 cups, but you know, this isn't an exact amount. Again, first time doing this recipe. I just want to top a little bit on each one. I'm going to use the rest of it, or probably don't even need this much, but I'll use some of it for the baguettes. So this can be turned off, and this is just 12 slices of baguette, which will be enough because for 4 servings here, each person will get about 3 or 4 meatballs and get a couple slices of the bread. So you can just put a little bit of cheese on the end of each one. I think that'll look nice. So these can go in just until the cheese melts. That's it. I think for this amount, it's gonna be about 7 minutes, possibly 10, 450. You can check with a meat thermometer to see if they're done, if you're worried. And then if you want, after that, you can brown it broiler for like 1 or 2 minutes, but watch carefully so you don't burn it. Okay, and we're gonna bring it out and get it ready for the taste tester. Overdone on TikTok and stuff, but you know, what do you think about me making this for you?
I don't consume TikTok content, so I haven't seen this before.
Oh, I have. She doesn't look too happy. I'm not sure about this one.
I'm keeping my poker face.
Yeah, that's a big poker face. I'm a little concerned. I haven't tried any meatballs or anything yet.
No.
What's your thoughts on it?
I really like it. It is a little heavy on the thyme. So I happen to like thyme, but I think if someone doesn't love thyme, they should maybe cut back a little bit on it because it's in the onions and it's in the meatballs.
That's correct.
Okay. If you don't like thyme, then cut back on it. Okay. And maybe don't put it in the meatballs. Maybe just put it in
or lower the amount.
The onion sauce. My second comment is that I think this would be better with a more pungent cheese. Like I was really hoping for a stronger, I don't know, I happen to like strong cheeses. This is very mild.
Gruyere is stronger than this. The Gruyere that we used in the French onion soup. If you haven't seen the video, watch the video. There's differences, but there's a lot of similarities between these dishes. I just didn't want to do the exact same French onion again.
Yeah, so the cheese is very mild, which again, not a bad thing, but for me personally, I would like a stronger cheese and I want more alcohol. Not the alcohol itself, but I would like a little bit more of the, what did
flavor.
You do, brandy?
1 tablespoon of brandy at the end, so you probably would like 2 tablespoons.
Yeah, if you can tweak that a little bit, then it would be perfect.
Well, let us know what you think if you do make it like this, if you agree with Tara. Probably when it gets to you, when you see this video, the printable recipe that's always in the description, if you follow it at that point and you think, oh, okay, Jim, you know what, you messed up here, let us know in the comments.
Overall, really, really good.
All right, so what does it get?
I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
All right, we'll see you next time.